come to order. Catherine, would you please take roll?
Cook? Here. Voorhees?
Yo.
Leahy?
Here.
Deborah?
Here.
I almost could say not here.
Yo.
Gomez?
Here.
Ingraham?
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I will ask any council members who will be remaining for any items on tonight's agenda if they have any conflicts of interest. If so, please state them now. Seeing none, we'll move on. Are there any citizens who would like to speak to us about any item that is not on this evening's agenda? So, Steve, come on up to the microphone. And we know who you are, but for the record, give us your name and address.
Glad to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steve Smith, 63116 Road, here briefly in behalf of Glenwood Springs Bicycle Advocates to, in an enthusiastic and broad way, thank this city council, including the members who are departing, but all of you together for your steadfast encouragement for bicycling, for practical trips in Glenwood Springs, for your particular direct support for funding for things like the West Midland Bicycle Path, clarification on policy on bicycle riding on the bicycle and pedestrian trail bridges, other investments around town, and just your example and your support. I want to thank you most recently for the work that has begun on the 6 and 24 bicycle path, the oldest paved bicycle path in Glenwood Springs. And thanks to some real enthusiastic push from city council members, the repairs out there have begun. There's some nasty cracks and heaves that are now becoming smooth and safe. So we thank you for that and for these other projects. The council members who are departing, especially thank you as you go for your encouragement and foresight on this. We're enthused to work with the new incoming city council members, building on your legacy and then on your example. And appreciate it. The work that you do, your management staff, your public works staff, your police department have all teamed up to really make this project a repeated series of successes. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak about any items not on this evening's agenda? All right, seeing none, I will close it to citizens, and we have one item on the consent agenda this evening, which is the regular minutes of from the March 21st, 2019 and the April 4th, 2019 regular meetings. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
A motion by Rick and a second by Shelley to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move on to council comments. Are there any council members who would like to make any comments?
What's that?
I figured I'd go last. Sure. Okay.
Okay. We wanted to thank you for all of your help over the last couple of years. Catherine has real gifts, but I wanted to do fun ones. Todd, for you.
I guarantee this is going in Jody's patio. This is going on Jody. There you go. We'll have a ceremony. You can hang on Jody Collins' patio outside. Thank you very much. I love my blue pea.
But I assume it'll be going nowhere near the parking garage.
I was gonna say, as long as it doesn't end up on our beautiful brick and stone parking garage, I'm happy.
That's the plan for tomorrow.
I think I'll share this with Jody. Thank you.
And for Mike.
Thank you. Do you want me to open it now?
I love my boob.
Should I move away from him? Trying to save the paper.
No, that's the way I am. I'm not no, maybe this is well taped, so I might just start to.
I think now you need to move away a little now.
Yeah.
It's getting
This is the
down to
dangerous
the,
part.
it's getting down to the exploding parts. I think we've got to move away.
It's quite a knife he's been carrying. I didn't know.
Box of paper.
Coffee mug?
I have no idea. It's getting smaller. Oh, wow.
You finally got your statue.
Hey, I'm assuming that's Teddy Roosevelt.
I like it.
It's a bronze, I think it's a replica of a bronze bust of Teddy Roosevelt. I've always wanted us to have art that kind of has some context with our history, instead of spacemen and finger benches and whatever other weird art we've had over the years. And so I've kind of been a proponent of, I've admired the City of Golden's artwork, which is mostly bronze statues.
It has a little bit of a Gamba look-alike.
No, that's Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt. So, thank you.
Before we give you your real gifts, I just wanted to take a second to thank you both very much. I appreciate everything you've done for the city of Glenwood Springs, for staff, your support. We would not be where we are if we had not had you, and also thank you for hiring me.
Thank you for accepting.
Yeah. All right.
I love my boo pee. I think I'm going to put it in my backyard. I don't think I'm giving it to Jody.
Public Works found that for you and cleaned it up, Jake, I believe.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Are we supposed to open it now? Or later? Now? If I would have known this, I would have done 8 years earlier. I think we just go for I don't think they're trying to save the planet tonight.
I'm just trying to figure out how to get into it. Whoever wrapped these likes tape.
Oh, that's really cool. That would be the nicest thing on my desk. Yeah, thank you guys.
Oh, wow.
That is really cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, so all the staff that participate in this is awesome.
Oh, mackerel. That is beautiful. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to keep my desk cleaner.
Avoid all the plastic. That beats a gold pocket watch, I guess, huh?
It's easier to find.
The thick
Yeah.
pocket.
I don't think that one will fit in my pocket very well.
I just wanted to say thank you as well. I was thinking about it. I think Mike and I met on a trip to Arches pretty close to 20 years ago now. 'Cause our kids
Been a long time ago.
It's been a long time because our kids were very young.
Right.
And I wanted to thank both of you guys because you've been around and working hard for the community for a long time, long before you were on council. I'm sure you will be working long after as well. And it also gave me pause to think that, this tenure as Mike as mayor is the 9th mayor that I have worked with in Glenwood, and the incoming mayor will be the 10th. And it's nice to see that history that keeps moving forward and the town keeps moving forward, and how different it is now from where it was 8 years ago when you guys started. And that is impressive, and you hear about it on the street, you hear about it in other communities, and I just wanted to genuinely say thank you for that service.
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for coming back and working for
Yeah.
us. that was an interesting time when we were bringing you back to work for the city, and so that was, I appreciate you saying yes. I think you brought a heck of a lot to the table in the last 8 years for what was going on. I mean, we needed that skill level and your skill level, and you knocked it out of the park for us for the last 8 years. So I know I appreciate that. I know Mike does too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Jonathan?
Well, I'll kick off the goodbye tour. I remember sitting out there, the new council candidates. I was there a couple of years ago. I want to first welcome Paula, Tony, and Charlie and congratulate them on their election. I just remember these great goodbyes to Stephen and Matt and Leo, and I just can't really say how cool that was to hear that and to see, what a special thing it was. And then I started to serve and see what is required of the people that sit up here. And for you guys to do that for 8 years is a great testament. And not just do it and you didn't just show up and be a city council person. You've led this community as mayor and mayor pro tem. And there's things that you guys have impressed upon me, a lot of knowledge that I'll hopefully take forward for the next couple of years. As long as I'm on council, Mike's famous not to get in the weeds. And Todd's famous, it's just common sense. But I joke, but there, things like that you say, and it's a one-off, but things like good enough for Glenwood is not good enough anymore. Those are things that, those sound bites stick with you, and it's things that I'll remember going forward. And so I know that I probably speak for everybody up here when I say a heartfelt thank you very much, and your legacy lives on in so many ways that we probably won't even know for several years. So thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth.
I did better.
I certainly appreciate both you guys greatly, and I've been sitting here with you now for, I think, over a decade.
I appreciate that.
We have certainly come a long ways in the last 4 years, and have built a number of bridges together.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, it's been some interesting evenings and some long fought fights along the way to get where we are today, and I greatly appreciate it, and I miss you guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
And so if I can, Todd and Mike, you've made us laugh and you've made us cry. But we should talk and focus on what you did in the council, and which was great. I really appreciate the leg up in the first few months to sort of find out what's going on, and your patience with processes, and the way you sort of brought us along, and a lot of the things that we did as a council were set in motion before I got here. And that's leadership. We didn't always agree. You didn't always want to agree. And I think that that's healthy in the life of a community. And so thank you very much. And, looking forward to seeing you around town in your civilian clothes. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And one last thank you from me also. It's been a pleasure to serve with you both. And the one thing that I've learned about these two, and we will certainly miss their leadership on council, is that you have a profound love and desire to serve the community, and I really respect that and appreciate that. So thank you
Thanks,
for all the
Shelley.
service.
Thanks.
Thanks, Shelley.
Yeah. So if it's okay, I'll say a couple of things. And Mike and I have talked about this day for a while, and I swore I wasn't going to get emotional about it, and I'm going to try not to. But him and I've been through a lot in the last 8 years, good, bad, and different. A lot of big decisions came down in the last 8 years, as they do with every council. So we're not the only ones. The next council is going to have these big decisions. You're going to be presented with opportunities that you weren't aware of, that are going to become aware to you, that you're going to have to deal with. The I always tell people it's a 50-50 gig. 50% of the time you're right, and 50% of the time you're wrong, and on the next issue it flips. So don't think you're gonna be the hero to everybody, because you're not. I mean, you're gonna make good decisions for the city of Glenwood. That's been my guiding light the whole time, is what is right for the city of Glenwood, not just the 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 people who show up in the room that are upset, because the happy people stay home. So you're going to get people in the room that are upset about the issue, but make the right decision for the entire town of Glenwood Springs. We've got a very dynamic town of 10,000 people, and they're all trying to enjoy the life in Glenwood Springs. And the next council is going to be, you guys are charged now to make decisions for the whole town, and again, not just the people in the room. And it's hard, because those people in the room you see at City Market, and you see them out and about, and they're all of our community. And sometimes those decisions are tough. So just make the right decisions for Glenwood. Leave all your national stuff at home. Leave all this stuff you see on the TV at home. I mean, it doesn't belong here. This is the way government should work, in my opinion. And the smaller you get in government at the municipality level, it just works well. I mean, we all see each other all the time around town. Make good decisions for the city of Glenwood. Don't worry about that national stuff. That's all just a mess. So I wanted to say something about our staff. I mean, our staff, when Mike and I first got here, our second day on city council was a meeting with our then city manager, community development director, city attorney, and a few other staff members. And we talked about the culture of Glenwood, the city of Glenwood Springs, the government in Glenwood Springs, and how we really wanted to see us come together as a government who could work for the town, who could be there for the community, as opposed to, we had a little bit of button heads going on back in the day, where it was kind of us versus them. And so we had a talk about, how do we change that culture? How do we change the culture of government and the interaction with the people? And it really came down to our staff buying into that. We did do a city manager change, and that is absolutely no reflection on Jeff Hexel. Jeff Hexel was an excellent city manager. At the time, it was time to make a change, but I learned an awful lot from Jeff Hexel. He was a professional through and through, great man. I'm sorry it went down like that for him, but it was time for a change. Deborah came in, and I tell you what, Deborah bought in to the fact that of what this council wanted, and good for her. She just came in and embraced that, as did the rest of our staff, and I'm really, really proud of our staff right now. I mean, we are a staff that is looking for win-wins. We're looking for, when someone comes in and needs to get through our engineering department, through our community development department, through our legal department, we're looking for wins, and we're looking for win-win situations, and that's how a small town should be. If we didn't want to live like that, we'd all be in Denver. We'd all be in a big city somewhere where nobody cares about each other. So that's one of the things that I'm absolutely most proud of, is we have a staff who cares about our small town community, and you can feel it. So I really, really appreciate it. Terry Parch, absolutely awesome. Thank you very much for dealing with all my aesthetics over all these years, and buying into the fact that the aesthetics do matter as long as with the engineering. Yes, we expect bridges to stand up. Yes, we expect sidewalks to work, but what we skin them with is really important, and you've totally bought into that. So thank you very much for listening to all those conversations about, we got to have stone and brick, and we got to have the right metal, we got to have the right color, blah, blah, blah. And you've bought into that, so thank you very much. Jen, community development, absolutely. Like, again, second day, our biggest thing was about community development. Completely changed the culture in there between you and Deborah. Thank you very much. The people that I know who are movers and shakers in this town that are trying to make things happen are now happy to come back to you guys. And they're like, I get treated so well. I just heard it this morning from a guy who hasn't been in town for a little while. He's back. And he's like, Todd, he goes, everybody's really nice to me. And I go, that was really, it hasn't always been like that. I hear a few chuckles, but it's there now. We're looking for win-wins. If it's a positive development for the city, if it's a positive thing that's happening, you guys are looking for wins. I love it. Thank you very much. That's one of my biggest, I'm one of the most proud of that. Matt Langhorst, thank you very much for taking over the whole, you probably got the toughest job going. And, but anyway, I love the fact you're there. Robin Milliard, what a heck of a career, 35 years. I apologize, I missed his going away party, but Robin Milliard did an awesome job. Terry goes without saying. I mean, not that I couldn't go on for hours, but thank you very much for what you've done. I'll never forget you and your hat out here on Grand Avenue to directing traffic, but you're absolutely top-notch, run one of the best departments in the whole state. Thank you. Steve Boyd, anybody that can make economics interesting to a 17-year-old, I appreciate. So if you don't get that, my son took 2 semesters, Econ 1 and 2 from Steve, and he absolutely loved the classes, and he's down at CU still loving Econ, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell he did, but if you can do that and run the city like you're running it and take care of our finances, good job. Brian, thanks for coming to Glenwood Springs and taking our rec department to another level. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. I'm really bad at forgetting people, but what's that? Gretchen. Where's Gretchen? Gretchen. Absolutely love working with Gretchen. Yeah, you're. I mean, you know that. I call you like every other day, and I was like, well, now that I'm back in the private sector, you're going to see more of me. So, yeah, that's a threat. So, anyway, Gretchen, community development. That I swear that is one of my proudest things. Is I really feel like that has turned the corner, and you guys are looking for wins, and that's all we ever asked for. You know, nothing to be handed to us out here in the development world, but you know, let's look for wins if there's one there, and then hopefully it's a win-win for the whole community. Sorry, I'm talking too long, but Carl Hanlon, thanks for saying yes. That's just the bottom line. I mean, when we came to you, our city needed somebody who had that feel for Glenwood Springs, who had that legal mind for what was about to happen in Glenwood Springs. We needed agreements with state of Colorado. We needed agreements with UP. We needed agreements left and right, RAFTA. I mean, we needed so many high-level agreements, and we needed Carl Hanlon. Bottom line, we needed Carl Hanlon to come and help us get through those processes, and they were extremely difficult. And we as a council and we as a staff got through them, and we accomplished a lot in 8 years. And that is absolute testament to Carl's ability to handle the legal documents in the city of Glenwood. So thanks for saying yes. Okay, lastly, and then I'm going to shut up. Deborah, again, thank you for saying yes. Yeah, I know. I'll never forget. We were all sitting here on the board, and I think we did your interview on the screen. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what happened. But at the end of all the interviews, every one of us were like Deborah Figueroa. It's like Deborah is the person. And again, I don't know what it was. It was a gut feeling. We knew you were young and new, and I think that's maybe what we were looking for, is that new look on how a city can be run, some new blood. We were all getting old, and we're like, okay, what can young people do? But for whatever reason, when we interviewed you, and I'll never forget this, we're sitting around this little square, and you're up on the big screen up here talking to us from Pennsylvania, and once you got off the screen, it was like, it was unanimous, like immediately. So anyway, thanks for saying yes. You've done a hell of a job for us. You've done a hell of a job for the city of Glenwood, and I wish the staff all the luck moving forward, working with the next council. So, sorry it was so long-winded, I'm done. And obviously Mike, actually I'm not done. My very last name on my list of thank yous is Mike Gamba. And I mean, Mike and I've talked about this. I don't want to go too far in the weeds, because you know what I think of your, yeah, I was going to say, you know what I think of the accomplishments that our councils have been part of throughout the 8 years we've been here. And again, it's been a team effort, it's been a staff effort, it's been a 7-person effort. It's never one of us. We've all worked together, I think, to do the best thing for the city of Glenwood Springs. And there are some things that wouldn't have happened, I think, if you weren't mayor, with your focus on 8th Street. That 8th Street connection is absolutely huge. I'm glad we had the right council sitting here when that bridge opportunity came to us. I think you're an absolute huge part of getting that Grand Avenue Bridge built. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I told you, don't do that to me and I won't do that to you.
Yeah.
But I really, really appreciate sitting here with you and kind of being in the sidekick position so that I didn't have to focus so hard on being the mayor. So anyway, thank you for being one of the most consequential mayors that I've seen in the 25 years that I've lived in this town. I think you have taken us along with all of council and all of staff to a level that Glenwood should be at, and we're going to keep continuing. This next council is going to keep on rolling. I'm confident of that. And anyway, thank you for letting me sit next to you for 8 years.
Thanks, Todd. As everyone knows, I'm not a great public speaker, and I'm even a worse public speaker if I don't have someone else write my speech. And so I actually spent today working. I didn't write a nice speech, and so I don't have a lot of nice things to say I don't mean that I'm going to say a lot of not nice things. I just don't have a great speech to leave you with. But I want to echo just some of Todd's thanks. I want to thank Carl again. I think Carl has been instrumental in any successes we have seen, for the last 8 years. Even though you weren't the city attorney for those first 4, you were doing a lot of legal work for the city at that time. Deborah, like Todd said, our decision to hire you was unanimous, and I don't think we made a wrong decision there. Just for the public's knowledge, one of the reasons, this wasn't the only reason, but one of the things that attracted us to Deborah's skills was that she had a reputation for bringing in quite a bit of grant money, and I believe we estimated this morning during our pre-council meeting that it was somewhere in the range of $10 million over the last 3 years. I think it's actually closer to $12 million. So that's pretty impressive. And money isn't everything, but it sure does help when you got a lot of roads and bridges and water lines and sewer lines and stuff like that to build. So thank you, and thank you for putting up with me. I know that I might be a little opinionated upon occasion, and
it shows.
I'll echo that comment. Thank you for putting up with Mike. Took a little pressure off me.
But thanks. Steve Boyd, again, I just appreciate your leadership in the financial direction of the city and dealing with our new software that is coming online. And I imagine and I'd also like to thank Yvette. I don't know if Yvette's here, but I know it's not an easy task what you're doing, but the software that the city was running on was originally written in the 1980s, is that right? So it might have been time to replace it, but that's not an easy task, and Steve is doing that. Jen, thanks for just kind of being, kind of the catch-all for, whatever needs to happen. I know you're the assistant city manager. You're also the head of the community development department. And like Todd said, I think community development is really heading in the right direction. Gretchen, Trent, everybody, I appreciate all your efforts. Matt, I again echo what Todd said. I don't envy your job, but I'm glad you're there. I think we're in good hands. Robin was the amount of knowledge and experience that Robin had was irreplaceable, but
I hear Robin's on retainer.
yeah.
He's on retainer.
That's what I thought.
But, I know we're in good hands. I appreciate that. Terry Parch, I know that I haven't always been easiest to get along with, and I apologize for any of those moments that I think were probably more than moments in many cases. So, but I appreciate all your efforts on behalf of the city, and I look forward to, like Todd, I'll probably be seeing you perhaps a little more often now that I'm not up here. So, Chief Wilson, I don't know that there's much I can say other than I'm glad you're there too, and you were a huge part of why the Grand Avenue Bridge project was successful. And I mean, that was like Todd said, that was a team effort, but the detour could have been the biggest disaster in the history of the planet, and it wasn't quite that bad. It was close, but not quite that bad. So, yeah. Chief Tillotson, I don't think he's here, but I want to express my appreciation to him and all of his support over the last 8 years, or he's been there 8 years. He hasn't been chief for that long, but Catherine, thank you for all of your holding our hands over the years when we can't figure out how to log into our computers and everything else.
I gotta jump in here real quick. And for my coffee money, and I apologize. I was just going off the cuff. I don't have it all written down. So, absolutely. Thank you very much for bringing me my coffee money every 2 weeks and doing what you do. I don't know how you listen to us. It's mind-boggling to me how you can be there every 2 weeks, listening to the mush up here. But it could,
without just glazing over, or at least not looking like you're glazing over.
You have to have the toughest job in the city. Short of bringing me my coffee money every 2 weeks, but thank you.
Eric Arnett, I want to thank him for all of his IT support when our iPads and computers weren't functioning properly. He would figure them out. And the utility guys, Doug Hazard, Brad Zachman, I know they're not here, but Brian, and I'm sure I'm forgetting someone else too. So if you're on city staff and I'm forgetting you, I'm thanking you all because this has been a team effort. Any accomplishments we've achieved have been largely because of the staff, and sometimes in spite of the council. So I would just want to thank all of you. I know Jim Ingraham is not here today, but I want to thank him. He stepped into kind of a tough position, with Catherine Trauger having to resign, and he kind of got thrown into the fire without actually running for the position. And I think he served admirably, and he's a decent, honorable man, and I wish him the best in the future. Todd, I will probably, I don't have enough. I have 3 pages of notes of different things we've been able to work on together. I do want to just, again, for the public's knowledge and to embarrass Todd a little bit. The Grand Avenue Bridge project came about largely because way back 7.5 years ago, when CDOT came to the city and said, we'd really like to look at replacing your Grand Avenue Bridge, and they had done that 20 years earlier, and I think we ran them out with pitchforks and flaming torches. And we recognized that we had a 68, 70-year-old bridge that was originally constructed as a 2-lane bridge. It had been shoehorned in to be a 4-lane bridge. Chunks of concrete were falling off onto cars parked down below it. It wasn't structurally obsolete, but the day when it would be structurally obsolete was not that far off. And if it became structurally deficient, I guess, we wouldn't have been spending 5 years planning and designing it. We would have been slamming some Corps of Engineers Ugly Bridge in, and we would have had the detour without all the planning. We would have had the bridge without all the amenities. And that was, I think, one of the wisest moves that this council made, and I want to attribute that to Todd. Todd came to the council with, we didn't have support from our city staff on that decision, and Todd brought up a resolution to council and said, we want to work with CDOT, provided that they work with us and we get a bridge that is, that Glenwood deserves. And we spent I quit counting how many meetings we attended regarding the Grand Avenue Bridge at 55. And it was enormous in terms of the planning of the bridge, the 8th Street connection, the pedestrian bridge, elevator tower versus ramp, the stone versus other finishing materials, what's happening under 7th Street, et cetera. It's been pretty much a game changer for the city of Glenwood, and largely I think it was a successful project. And I think, again, we have Todd to thank for that. I could go on about a lot of different issues that Todd has spearheaded over the last 8 years, but basically I just want to say thank you for all of your efforts up here for the last 8 years. It's not easy to take this much time out of your business life, and I just want to say I appreciate your efforts up here.
I appreciate that. You too, Mike. You've taken a lot of time out of your family and your business life, so it's all good. I appreciated doing it with you.
You know, and I just want to, in closing, say I'm honored and humbled to have been the mayor of our city for the last 4 years, and I wish the staff and the incoming council the best in the next 4 years. So, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mike. I'm going to say one last thing here. I appreciate the council, but one person I want to recognize who absolutely was a game changer for council was Leslie Bethel. I mean, Leslie, okay. Anyway, yeah, thank you, Leslie.
And with that, I think we say our goodbyes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have to leave?
There is a
You know,
really
Todd, you've been talking
quick
about it for
break
like
scheduled
8
for your
years.
cake.
Will you do swearing in first?
No, we,
The break was after the swearing
Where's-
in, I
was it?
believe.
Yeah.
oh, then you guys are supposed to stay.
Because then
Oh,
there's
we
time
are.
for
So you're
cake.
supposed to have cake with us.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess we don't get to say goodbye yet. Okay, we'll begin swearing at the new council members. I mean, swearing in at the new council members.
I can't do those things like for Leslie. Like when you did that for your father. There's no way.
Do solemnly swear
That I will support the constitutions of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the state of Colorado,
the state of Colorado,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and the charter and the ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of city councilor,
and will faithfully execute the duties of city councilor,
representing the athletic seat, upon which I am about to enter.
representing the Atwater CHS upon which I am.
Steve Davis,
upon my oath,
once again upon my oath,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the state of Colorado,
the state of Colorado,
and the charter and ordinance of the city of Glenwood
and the
Springs,
charter and ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of city councilor representing Ward 1
of the office of city councilor of Ward 1. Is that how that went?
upon which I am about to enter.
Upon which I am about to enter.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, for execution.
I, Charlie Bowman,
I, Charlie Bowman,
upon my oath,
on my oath,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the state of Colorado,
state of Colorado,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Glenwood Springs.
and will faithfully perform the duties
And I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of city councilor
of the office of city councilor
representing Ward 1.
representing Ward 3.
Or three.
Sorry,
Upon which I am about to enter.
about which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
You better represent Ward 3. I know where you live.
Okay, raise your right hand. I, Paula Steck,
I, Paula Stepp,
upon my oath,
upon my oath,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the state of Colorado,
the state of Colorado,
and the charter and ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of city councilor
of the office of city councilor
representing Ward 4,
representing Ward 4,
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
All right, now we can say goodbye.
You gonna help him the loot out of here?
I'm good. I'm so happy with my blue pea. I love it. I don't think I'm giving this to Jody.
speaking again?
Can I call this meeting back to order? I'm only sitting here temporarily, and I've just given up my seat to Paula, only because I'm the most, I guess, senior council person here tonight. And the next item on the agenda is honestly probably the most awkward moment on this dais every 2 years, and that's trying to figure out if anybody wants to step in to this seat. We've lost tonight both our mayor and our mayor pro tem, and we need to find some candidates that would take that place. There is some procedural discussion to have, and I'm going to turn that to Carl.
Just for the public's benefit, the charter does require that a mayor be elected by a majority of council, meaning 4 of you must agree. So there can't be a plurality. It's not a 3-2-2. Doesn't get you guys there. Your votes are public information. What we have done historically in the past is that when you cast a vote, write the candidate you're voting for at the top, sign the bottom of the ballot, fold it, pass it down. I generally have a practice of not reading out who voted for whom, because I think that sometimes can be damaging. But those are a matter of public record if somebody really wanted to know. But I don't usually find it that helpful.
But you put your name on this? My name?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the process, and so we will. If there's more than 2 candidates, it could take 2 or 3 rounds of balloting to narrow it down. This morning, again, for the public's benefit, the council, the incoming council talked a little bit about that they wanted to narrow it to 2, I believe, for a final vote, unless somebody received 4 out of the out of that first round. And that whoever out of those final 2 candidates, it would be the mayor. Winner would be the mayor. The second would be the mayor pro tem. If we run into a tie at mayor, that second position, we'll sort it out then. Again, historically, candidates can nominate themselves or have somebody else nominate them. We have never required seconds for a nomination. And then probably the only other sort of bit of whatever tradition is that in terms of where you get to sit, it's based on seniority on council. So if that means you want to be as far from the mayor as you possibly can get, then you can do that. If you want to be closer to the mayor, then you can do that. So that is something you guys can sort out, or if you want to just, we can play some music and people can walk around the chairs.
You may change it every time a little bit.
However you guys want to do it. So that's kind of the background. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chairman Davis.
I'm not giving up my seat.
I told you I was not going to.
So, given that, I think there are some people that are interested in having this position, and I would open it to those statements or those nominations.
I think, do we need to take public comment on this?
No.
Okay.
No.
Says public comment.
This is strictly, the council makes a selection about it is an internal decision.
That's all I get. Okay.
We certainly, I'll be watching buttons for
After the
council
vote.
comments.
After the vote, Steve, can I sit as far away from the mayor as I can?
You'll probably end up there.
Oh, dear.
Well, I'd like to nominate Rick Voorhees who's one of the people on here.
All right?
So what is this part of the process? I'm kind of confused.
We'd like to
If you
know,
want to nominate somebody,
Oh, I
or if
see.
you
Yep.
want to nominate yourselves.
and we're going to nominate each and every one that's would accept the nomination. And Rick, would you accept that nomination?
I would accept.
Okay, are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Shelley Kell.
And Shelley,
I accept the
you
nomination.
you feel that about that? Any other nominations?
I'll nominate Jonathan Godis.
I'll accept.
Okay. Any other nominations? Being none, we've got these forms in front of us that we should fill out, fold in half, pass over to Catherine for,
We're going to pass them actually this way.
pass them that way? Okay?
So, and to recapitulate, we want to rank these votes, right?
No.
You're going to vote for whoever you
One.
One
That's
vote.
good to know.
ballot, right?
One vote per ballot.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're voting for,
And we're going to no doubt do this a couple of times.
Well, and my question again is, you want my name on here for the record, obviously.
Yeah.
Where?
just, I don't know, wherever you can put it on there. I didn't make them.
Next to Rick. Underneath, I mean.
Right. All right, so in this first round, we had 3 votes for Jonathan, 2 for Shelley, and 2 for Rick. It's acceptable to the council. I think that makes Jonathan one of the final 2, and then if you would ballot again between Shelley and Rick.
I don't understand.
So if you're going with the highest vote getter, if we need to narrow the field down on a 3-2-2, if you go with one of the final 2 candidates being the one with the most votes, then you would choose between the next 2. It's kind of a runoff for that other position.
Oh, so we can decide between those two.
So you can decide between those 2.
So don't check Jonathan.
Don't check.
I need another ballot. Are there any other blanks? Or a piece of paper, yeah.
What do you need?
I need another ballot. I didn't, I'll take 2.
All right. Steve, can I have you do this again?
Did I do it? Did I screw it up?
You did.
I'm gonna need the rest of this.
Steve, you're good.
I just need that.
That's embarrassing. I remember a city council election, a student council election that went this way. I lost.
All right, sorry about that.
Give you the big chair once.
I know.
All right, so in that round, Shelley received 4 and Rick received 2. So that leaves us with the top 2 candidates being Shelley and Jonathan. So your next ballot should produce a mayor.
If I don't screw it up.
If you don't screw it up. So if you would vote for either Shelley or Jonathan.
Throw that away, please.
Which one's the sign?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could, okay,
I don't know which one.
okay.
Did everyone else put their names on?
Rick forgot to sign it, so when you get one not signed.
There ought to be jeopardy using my.
By vote of 4-3, Jonathan is elected mayor and Shelley is elected mayor pro tem.
I relinquish my chair.
Right, I'm leaving. Here, both on somebody while you're here.
Do I have to sit next to Steve?
You're gonna sit next to me. We're just gonna dose a bill right over here.
Oh, I thought Steve, this was Steve's seat. Oh, that was Jonathan's seat.
Yeah.
I don't know who's even next.
Hi,
this all right?
welcome.
When is this?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know it was on my thing, and I don't even know what it was.
July 4th, May the 4th. I don't know. I'm not on civics. Am I supposed to be?
I have no idea, because I am the least technology proficient.
You want to be in Congress?
I may be more
You
proficient.
could be hanging out.
I'd like to make a motion that we just table everything else on the agenda for this.
I like it over here.
Okay, you can't sign it.
I guess I could, but I'm not.
Having
Neither
this on the
should.
agenda, just a message from the mayor, the artisan.
Oh, okay, thank you. I understand because it's my $20. She made $20.
It's whatever. She should be a username.
Oh, Jimmy, great.
I believe we have a pro tem.
You already elected us.
Oh, great.
Yeah, remember Shelley.
Okay.
We're just that one too.
To switch.
So you need to join the meeting and that you're
I'm not.
present and voting.
Is
And then
it, the
say-
password's the same as my username right now? Thank you, Roxy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you gotta look to that side of the work with the technology.
Tony.Hershey and Tony.Hershey for both of them.
Is it case sensitive?
No. Oh, I use lowercase.
That did work. Thank you.
I have one.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
Get ready for 4 years of this.
We are hopeful the computer system gets easier.
It will.
Yeah, after a couple of years.
Okay, up next is item number 15, proclamation of Glenwood Springs Architecture Month. We have a presentation?
I'm just gonna read the proclamation.
Proclamation.
I guess I'm presenting.
You could come down
Okay.
if you wanted to.
Thank you.
You don't have to.
No, no, if that's what's done.
Join the April 18th meeting. And say present and voting and save.
Thank you.
And then scroll down. I think we open review.
Proclamation of the City Council Colorado Architecture Month. Whereas we are shaped to a great extent by our built environments, building, public spaces, streetscapes, and the interaction with our natural and unique environments through thoughtful planning, design, and careful stewardship of our state's land and water resources. And whereas an essential element of the City of Glenwood Springs' character is the quality of its architecture created in collaboration with architects of past and present. And whereas the American Institute of Architects, Colorado West Section, dedicated to fostering design excellence by local architects and inspiring the next generation of design professionals through events such as Architecture Month. And whereas Architecture Month is intended to celebrate the importance of architectural design in people's everyday lives and impacts how we live, work, play, and preserve our natural resources for future generations. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Jonathan Godis, Mayor of the City of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, on behalf of the entire City Council and the residents we serve, recognize and support the valuable and important contributions of architectural design in our community.
Did you see I came up and violated?
Oh, did you?
I was trying to play with it.
This is hazing a man.
You did the speaker. You said that.
Yeah, just like withdraw speak.
Right.
Or withdraw, right? See?
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I know. And then what's next?
16.
16.
No, 17, sorry.
Oh,
I don't know.
Okay, item 16, receipt of results of the April 2nd, 2019 municipal elections. Information discussion. Is that me too?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think really all you need to do, Mr. Mayor, is if somebody is willing to make a motion to accept the results as presented.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Charlie, seconded by Rick. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
We didn't vote on this thing. I thought we voted on this thing.
Not by voice proclamation.
Not right now.
All right, item 17, resolution 2019-22, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, authorizing the service Schedule K1 West Side bulk power supply agreement with the Municipal Energy Agency of Nebraska, MEAN.
Hey. Good evening, council. I feel actually almost privileged to come in front of you with this opportunity. The City of Glenwood Springs is under contract with MEAN currently, and we have been since June of 2012 for a 10-year contract to buy bulk power from MEAN with a 26% wind allocation. The remaining is coming from other portions of their grid. This new Schedule K, which would actually start and supersede the current Schedule K contract that we have with MEAN, would put City of Glenwood Springs at 100% renewable wind energy through the contract. I feel that this opportunity for the City of Glenwood Springs is great. It actually reduces our current what am I trying to say here? It actually reduces our rates, current rates that we'll be paying, so we'll be saving some money through the opportunity that we've been given. And I have Shannon Coleman here from MEAN. If you guys have any specific questions that you would like to ask on the contract or what this does for the city. Questions? Are there any questions? Any questions?
I had most of my questions answered, if you're, from
As everybody looks around to Shelley.
What?
As everybody looks around to you for.
I did have a whole set of questions, and I appreciate the answers that were sent back. So I don't necessarily have any right now. I did have a question from the public that came in about whether or not we'll still have the ability, same ability that we have right now to add, if someone in town wants to add solar to their home, they'll still have the same ability to do that. This doesn't affect that at all.
Exactly. This contract does not affect renewable resources by end users.
Correct.
Okay.
So the council, the electric board would have the opportunity to go back. We currently have restrictions on how much you can actually put on the rooftops. That may be something that the city council, which is also the electric board, would like to have discussions in the future about, and maybe some other opportunities that are out there. So that might be a future discussion if we want to convene the board and have some discussions about their opportunities.
I think that's all I have right now, Ben. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it at this time to public comment. Does anybody from the public would like to speak on this? Heather, step up.
Hi, members of council. Congratulations to all of you, especially new folks. I'm Heather McGregor, and I live at 63-116 Road, and I am one of your many renewable energy customers of Glenwood Springs Electric. I think that Means offer is a very positive recognition of the great need we have in this community for utility-generated renewable energy. And their offer of 100% wind power is phenomenal. It's kind of a surprise, but it's really great. And I think for Glenwood Springs to accept this offer is both a huge gift to our customers, to the Glenwood Springs Electric customers, and it's also going to be a very strong statement of leadership by the City of Glenwood Springs to other Mean customers who may not be as far along as we are on renewable energy, and to give them confidence to ask for the same source of clean energy in the future. And it will also be a strong statement for other Colorado municipal utilities around the state, even if they're not Mean customers. I do have a concern about Mean's longstanding limitation for the size of solar energy systems that can be installed by commercial customers. My understanding is that currently that limit is 25 kilowatts, which if you're an auto dealership or a school or any large business is a drop in the bucket. And I think it would be very good for the city. I guess my one comment about the contract is to make it very clear that there's the ability to enlarge that number, to allow customers to install bigger systems, and not for the utility to not face a limitation from its wholesale contractor. Schools are going 100% electric. You know, the new Riverview Elementary School is 100% renewable energy. And we could do that with other facilities in Glenwood Springs if we did not have that 25 kilowatt limitation placed by Mean. So that's my one concern about the contract as it is, but otherwise it's great news. Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Heather.
Mr. Mayor. Heather, could I ask you a question? What would be the size? If you said 25 is not large enough, what would be the size?
Well, I can tell you that the Riverview Elementary School array is 379 kilowatts. The one at Roaring Fork High School is 435. So that's the scale that would be needed for a school. Now, that's a really big user. But 25 kilowatts, for example, is just doesn't get a commercial customer very far in offsetting their use. And I think the point with that is that although the wind power is great and it's coming in from Nebraska, there are people here in Glenwood Springs that want to do their part in terms of providing renewable energy and adding to that portfolio. So we would like to have the opportunity to be able to do that without penalizing the utility.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Matt?
Sorry for the short presentation, by the way. I figured we should keep this ball rolling. That's why I kind of suggested we sit down and convene the electric board and have these conversations. We have a lot of limitations on ourselves, you know, and there's always the aspect of solar power is wonderful during the day. So having a huge array during the day is great, but we still have peak hours sometimes in the wintertime, and the solar array sometimes can help the school because we do production metering and net metering, and it can benefit the school financially, but we still have to buy the peak hour amount from Mean. So yes, it's very beneficial for the school, it's beneficial for the resident, but it actually is, the rest of the community pays for the peak hour, so we'd be supplementing that school, that residents with funds from other people. So that's why the board needs to sit down. We need to have a grander conversation about what we would like to do with our power grid and what we would like to allow. And we can always go back to Mean and have conversations. They've been very open, as you can see with this conversation, about carving out a 2 megawatt within our contract, you know, providing us 100% renewable wind power, lowering our rates. You know, they're very, I will say, easy to work with at this point. And I think that we have opportunity for discussions.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Council comments.
I clicked my little button, but it didn't work.
Oh, okay.
Your talk, but
We
My
on the
talk-
computers or on the other?
I
Oh, so
did
we're
not
doing
get a
this or
primer
that?
on this.
there you go.
Oh, it's on the computer.
I tried that.
Are we doing the computer tonight, or are we?
I think
all
we're-
this
It comes up,
thing
it
is
doesn't
lit
come
up?
up on anyway.
For the public, we have new computers we're supposed to start using.
Yeah, can we do
so-
this tonight? Because I think we decided to continue to do this into
Right.
our
Yes.
Yeah.
So the talk button is
Talk
yes?
button.
Let's see.
Well, no,
Whose
it's
light is flashing?
Okay,
Talk.
right.
Mine
Okay,
is.
great.
Rick.
And then no and yes is the.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
the vote.
So back to Heather's comment about the 25 kilowatt limit. At what point in this process that we're talking about, and I'm not clear, you may have mentioned this, but would we be able to address that?
The process has to really start at the electric board level.
Okay.
We have limitations that the electric board in the city has set. So I think we need to have those discussions and then have financial discussions on top of that. And then once we've kind of decided what we think is reasonable, go back to Mean and have conversations about that. You know, is it 300, is it 400, is it 1,000, what are those limitations?
And the Mean
top of
Board
that.
meets in May, as I understand it, and so would we have some sort of idea where we would sit shortly after that, or would that take longer?
I think if I may, Matt. So if you were inclined to approve this contract, it wouldn't affect what we, and actually Matt and I have been working on. We have, actually our electric tariffs are significantly old in Glenwood Springs, and I can't honestly remember the last time you officially convened as the electric board. I don't know if you can, Shel.
A year and a half, maybe?
Yeah. So in terms of sitting down and working our way through our own tariff system in light of this contract, I think what Matt's suggesting is that before we go to Mean and say the maximum should be 400 or 300 or 200, we need to understand for our system what that means financially to us before we make the ask. That's one piece of a much larger contract that I'm kind of with Matt, that this is a really nice opportunity. It would be nice to get it online. I will tell you frankly that 5 years ago, Mean was not nearly as easy to work with as they are today. And that I think is reflective of a change in the industry and a change in the culture at Mean, which is fantastic and greatly appreciated. So I'm pretty comfortable that we can go back and say this is what we really want to look at in terms of how it fits in with our electric system itself, and what we see coming online in terms of individual large-scale users.
So it may take a while, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, I would think by the next time the Mean board meets, not this May one, but the next quarterly meeting, we can certainly be there.
Okay.
Shelley?
Thank you.
I would just like to say I'm very excited about this opportunity to go 100% renewable and be able to offer that to our customers, Glenwood Springs Electric. We are so fortunate to have our own municipal electric utility and to have control over that, and to be able to take an opportunity like this. I'm looking forward to having conversations with our board on other things we want to do to take advantage of new technologies and just raise the bar on where we are with Glenwood Springs, what type of services we can offer to our customers and things like that. This is a great start. So I would like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 22-2019 for authorizing the Service Schedule K1 West Side Bulk Power Supply Agreement with Municipal Energy Agency of Nebraska. I was
Second.
expecting there to be updated in that wording somewhere, but since it's an update and a change. But
It's within the contract.
Yeah, I was gonna-
Okay.
yeah.
Rolling around.
Sorry, was there a second? Okay, it's been motioned by Shelley and second by Rick.
No, you can take me off. I'm good.
Okay, Tony?
I concur with what Sherry said. I was just looking that I think it's very exciting that we're going to be getting 100% of our electricity from a renewable source. I think you saw my when I got sworn in with my nephews, and I think this is truly the future, and it's for the next generation, the generation after that. I'm not sure what the future holds exactly, and Charlie and I may not be around, but I think that this is certainly the future of power, and to offer our customers that and at a savings too is just a win-win, so I'm supportive of this.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Charlie, you're,
No,
okay.
got my question answered.
Paula?
I just want to reiterate what both of these have said, how important this is for us moving into the renewables. I've done a lot of just research in the last year or so, especially since we're a oil and gas economy here in Garfield County. And part of that research has shown the dropping price of renewables and being able to embrace that now. And Stand Up when the state of Colorado is also looking at that at the future. So I'm excited about this contract.
Thanks, Paula. Any other comments? Let's call the question.
Yes, no?
We go back and forth.
The computer.
You know, I'm still logged in as Todd Leahy. So do you want me to
Do we want to
switch
just,
up the computers a little bit?
Jonathan, I'm getting the impression that you can probably do a voice vote on this one.
let's do a voice
Yes,
vote.
that might be better.
I wanted to push the button.
So do you lead the voice vote? You ask?
Individually or?
Or just
Oh.
ask for, just call, you know.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
I'm
do
going
we
to
have
keep
needs?
standing up here.
Thank you, Matt.
I was gonna just make the pitch that, you know, now you gotta send Matt to Nebraska.
Yeah,
Great,
excited
great.
about that. I like Nebraska, it's fine.
Well, and thanks to Mean for
Yes,
making this
for
possible.
coming.
And I was also going to mention, when you do have those conversations about the distributed resources, we'd be more than happy to conduct any analysis you need or attend any of the workshops and participate that way. It's interesting for us to hear what our participants really want.
Just so you know, we asked Mean yesterday if they'd be interested in coming or if they, literally a day later, Shannon is here all the way from Nebraska. So that's
Oh,
how
great.
responsive they have been on everything that we've asked them. All the questions that were presented, I had answers within hours of those questions being presented too. So, you know, they're very leaning forward at this point. And for the new members, you know, Robin went over to a meeting and just suggested, hey, could we bump from 26 up a little bit higher? And they said, wait, we can do a little better than that. You know, so this was driven by the council, but taken to the next level by me. So this was much appreciated by them. So I'd like to give them a big shout out on that one.
Great.
Great to hear.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, too.
Thank you, Matt.
Next resolution, Resolution 2019-21, which is in backwards order because we just did 22, is a resolution of the City Council for appointing Mean Board Director, appointing Mean Management Committee, and appointing to NMPP Members Council. So as Robin left, the board positions opened up, and it's by code required that the board member that is being appointed is actually on the system. So our backup board member last year, when Robin was here, was Doug Hazard. He doesn't actually live on the system, so we were kind of not abiding by the code. So the suggestion moving forward at this point, and this is the resolution in front of you, is that I would move forward as the Mean Board of Directors, the Mean Management Committee, and the appointment to the NMPP Members Council, and that Deborah would be the second on the Mean Board of Directors. So that is what this resolution is. It is putting our voice out there at the board level at Mean.
Any council questions?
Do I press talk?
You
Yeah,
just go
or
ahead.
just.
How many board members are there?
How many members are there?
There's one per participant, everyone gets a vote, so there's 62 right now.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was going to say 59, but I was wrong.
Shelley?
Is it possible for council members, since we are the board of Glenwood Springs Electric, to attend a meeting at some point just to see how it goes on and meet some of the Mean
We
Board?
have several towns that send their mayors or
Okay.
or other council members regularly. Yeah.
Okay.
And Matt would just have the vote. So,
Okay,
yeah,
'cause that might
it'd
be
great to
something
have
some of us might be interested in at some point.
Yeah, Mean would be very appreciative.
Be great to learn more. Yep.
Robin says it's always lovely.
It's always learning, yes.
I drive through Kearney every year.
Don't call it Kearney.
I won't anymore. Any other council comments? Anybody from the public care to comment on this matter?
Mr. Public? Nope.
All right. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for a motion or discussion.
I'll make a motion to, you're going to have to help me through this because it's the first time. I'll make a motion
To approve that.
read that, to approve Resolution 2019-21, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, regarding staff appointment to Municipal Energy Agency of Nebraska, Mean Board of Directors, the Mean Management Committee, and the Nebraska Municipal Power Pool Members Council.
I would second that, Mr. Mayor.
It's been moved by Paula, seconded by Tony. Any further discussion? In light of our confusion, if we can do a voice vote again, that would be appreciative. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Both these resolutions will be going in front of the meeting board on May 23rd. Second? Sorry, 22nd. We'll be there for 2 days then.
Thank you. Okay.
If I may, for the council meeting format, I know there has been a desire to take another look at how we have council meeting days. Currently, we start at 9 a.m. Sometimes we go until 12 or 1. We let you out for maybe an hour if you're lucky, sometimes 2, and then we've come back and started at 3 and sometimes gone to 11 p.m. I know that does not work for all of your schedules or maybe not be what you want to do. So now is an opportunity to kind of give us some direction on what you're looking for. I think, we can try out whatever you would like, and then we can change it if you feel like you need more time or you need less time, so you don't have to feel like you're locking yourself into anything.
Okay. Do I have to take public comment on this?
No, this is really.
Okay. Sorry, the names up here are not correct anymore. Charlie?
My view is that we need to find a way to shorten the council meetings. And I think that my general philosophy is we need to move out of the weeds, as our former mayor would say, and get into more policy type of decisions. I think we need to limit our work sessions to viable things that we need to talk about as a council level, to give the staff the direction so we can make proper policy decisions. With that in mind, and with the hope of maybe also making these council meetings more concise, as I would suggest we start at maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon. I prefer 4, just because I think we can do that. We'll go for a couple hours to 6. We've talked about some of the other council members about this. Take a brief break and start the meeting at 6:15 and go for 4 hours, and that'd be our drop dead time, absent the vote that I know is in the code now. So I think we should eliminate the morning sessions. I think it's very difficult. I know Tony has trouble with the court system. I don't do as much litigation as I used to, but there would be times that would be difficult for me as well. This is a high priority in my list of things to do over the next 4 years, but I want to be able to be here, and I don't want to have to worry about, giving up maybe a court hearing or telling some judge, well, I really can't be there today because I have a council meeting. So, and I think it might also help. I know Jonathan and I had this discussion of encouraging other people to run for council who may not be able to give up an entire day. And again, stealing anything from Jonathan or somebody, I think we try it for 6 months, see how it works, and if it doesn't work, then we move from there. So that's my feeling, and I think there's some consensus among us from the people I've talked to.
Thank you, Charlie. Councilor Hershey.
Councilor Hershey. Can I ask a question, Charlie? Isn't it 11 o'clock or, Catherine, by statute that we have to stop or take a vote? Not 10.
It's 11 o'clock by code.
Right, so that's,
But we would amend the code.
oh, right, but
Yeah.
currently it's 11.
Currently, it's 11 o'clock. It has to be unanimous vote to go past 11.
Charlie, I like what you're saying, and I appreciate your consideration of me. I would be okay if we were to meet early in the morning or at lunchtime, But then I do like the idea of then coming at 4:30 and doing the work session. And then, it's difficult for members of the public to be here at any time because they're working. Sometimes people can be here early in the morning at lunch, but obviously if they have something important they'd like to attend, it might be easier to be here after work, or they could leave a little early, which I think, I happen to work next door, so I could do that. But it's harder for other people, I know for Paula and people who might not be working as close. I really think it's important that we are transparent and make these meetings available to as many people who can attend. And I get concerned when people have things on the agenda, tonight's light, but somebody's waiting to discuss MEAN, for example, and they have to wait around until 9:30 or 10 and we're still going. It's not fair. People have other things. So I'm supportive of the idea, but like Charlie, I think with the caveat that if it's not working and we're not getting things done, then maybe we look at it again in 6 months. Thank you.
Yes. Paul. I know it's weird.
I would prefer that we shorten the work sessions. I do really firmly believe in information, though, and from my understanding, just from talking to different people, we get the agenda packets, and there are a lot of emails that go to you, and what I would be afraid of is by shortening those work sessions, you're getting discussion points that I might not have thought about that I would like to hear. And I mentioned to you, Deborah, and a few other people about, is there a communication device like Trello or Slack? And Carl, this is a question for you, where it's open to public view, but only we can comment on it to share questions and that type of stuff, so that we can shorten the work sessions but still communicate?
The short answer is no.
Okay.
The longer answer is there may be some opportunities to be able to do that, but effectively then what you're doing is noticing a perpetual public meeting, because anytime more than two of you are communicating via email or text or in person, that is an open meeting underneath the Open Meetings Act.
Okay.
So I'd be very hesitant to use electronic means to communicate. I think one of the things that we had kicked around a little bit is with the electronic age, a good example is what Shelley did this morning. She had a series of questions regarding an item on the agenda, and she, shot that to staff early. And there, let me step back and give you I'm feeling old because I can give history, but the reason we used to always have a breakfast meeting between the manager, the attorney, and the council strictly to go over what's on the agenda, and the purpose of that meeting was, is there additional information you need for that evening to be able to make a good decision? Then that predated the ability to communicate with the manager any other way other than walking into his office or her office, or picking up the phone. So that's how the morning session used to always go. We'd meet at 7:30 in the morning for breakfast. We were done by 8. And it kind of grew to this all-day session that we have now, and we had work sessions for an hour or two before the meetings in the evening. So from that standpoint, that's really, it wasn't to be a big policy discussion in the morning, absent it being a work session. It was strictly like, do you need some more information on this particular item? So that's very specific. It's not a full discussion of the council. Right. It's an information request. And I think we could try to do that, and without inundating Deborah with too much, if those really are information requests and not policy discussions.
Right.
Via email, if we're going to start later in the day.
If we're going to do that, though, I think I'd request that, I have them by close of the day on Tuesday, just because sometimes your questions can be difficult.
So
and we need some time.
So a breakfast meeting on Tuesday? Is that
or
what
just
you're
you
saying?
send me your questions by the end of the day on Tuesday. And not that you can't have questions that night while staff is presenting, of course you can. But if you want to ask something, there's something missing in the packet, if you let me know, I can let staff know, and I can make sure they cover it in their presentation. So you are all getting the same information, or we can send it out to everyone. But if we have a way of getting the questions in, we can make sure you all have the same information.
Tony, do you have a short question?
I just wanted to clarify that I am fine. If what you're saying is meeting at 7:30 in the morning, my schedule is certainly good, and I like to be here early and having a quick breakfast to give you enough time.
Yeah, I was just kind of giving that by way of history. I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, in my life as a parent, 7:30 is really tough.
I'm saying like 8 o'clock.
So something like that, is what historically we had done. The purpose of it, though, can really be covered by a different means at this point, effectively, which is kind of what my point was in terms of shortening up your day and allowing staff. One of the things that you forget sometimes about those days is that there are a lot of staff members who end up having to be here to cover certain issues, and so you just lost a day of productivity out of a lot of people who have a ton on their plate already. Not that it isn't important to spend that time with you, but it may not be totally necessary.
And just remember, the earlier you start, the earlier IT, Catherine, have to get in here. So if you were starting at 7:30, she's coming in at 6:30. So just bear that in mind.
But my concern was you said that you want to have these questions ahead of time. So if that's Tuesday or something, yeah, right, okay.
Shelley.
Okay. And some of the concerns echoed here have been my biggest concerns. A couple of things about those really long days is, when you have 4 work sessions in a day and that much information's coming toward you, by the time you reach 6 o'clock, your brain's basically done for the day. So that's a hard way to run an effective city council meeting. So definitely shortening up the days. I'm fine with losing the morning session, especially in light of things like email. If that can take the place of having to meet in person in the morning, I think that's fine. The other concern that I have had is the staff disruption. We've basically had 2 days a month plus where we have staff sitting in the audience, not just for the evening business meeting, but the whole day. So I totally agree and like to see that cut down. So I'm open to just having our business meetings, figuring out when we need work sessions and scheduling them accordingly. If we have to occasionally schedule an extra day a month where we have just a special work session day, if we've got a lot going on, I'm okay with that also. We could add a Thursday or something. I think Carbondale adds a Thursday for work sessions, but that's it.
Rick.
So your third place mayor has just 2 observations here. The first is, I don't know what's magic about 6 o'clock at night. Other Up Valley councils will start at 5 in the afternoon. We might consider that just because of people who are working who may want to come and talk to us as opposed to go home first and then come back. And so that's just something I think that we should kick around. And the other thing is, the first place and second place mayors, I think it's incumbent upon both of you to be sure that we don't get brought things that are, so far into the woodwork that they just chew up our time. And that includes things like the color of our buses, where to put a fence. All of that stuff is very vital and needed by the community. So does anybody want to change your votes when I'm talking here? No, it's just, to be at a policy level requires discipline by the city manager, the city attorney, the staff, but above all, it requires our discipline to say, isn't this really something that we can delegate? And I see a lot of boards say, well, we're going to operate at the policy level, and they do so until the first time the wheels fall off a bus somewhere, and then it's, sort of the hunt for the guilty. And so I really think that, some of the work sessions could kind of take care of themselves in terms of timber, in terms of the time that we're going to take if we're disciplined about the kinds of things that we're going to be discussing. The other thing that I would mention sort of along that line is that if you're, feeling like you need more detail, I think there's ways to do that, as you've mentioned, through email and through questions of the staff well before we have a meeting. So shorter, sweeter is good. Charlie and I kind of represent, the old part of the council down here, and we'd appreciate any sort of consideration about shortening the days. I think the staff would too, but 5 o'clock is not a bad start time for people who want to come and talk to us, who are taking off work or just leaving work. So, thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Charlie?
I want to echo what everybody else said since I started it, but Carl, the question I have for you is, I understand the core stuff and your concern about this quote-unquote blog or whatever we would call it, but, my fundamental idea is if we're out there in the public doing stuff, I don't want to have a 365-day meeting, but can you at least look and see if there's any way to do it? Or if we can't, then I think we should talk about whether we want to take the lead with the advent of electronic age and go to the legislature and say, we need to think about changes. We're not trying to hide anything from the public, but we're trying to be more efficient in our ability to do things and let people see maybe more we do on a day-to-day level and then communicate with each other. So,
Absolutely. And, there is, there's really two things. One is your communication with each other as well as the public's communication with you.
Right.
And there are a number of platforms that allow that sort of public discourse that various communities are using. I can take a look at it. I do think it would probably take somewhat of a legislative change to make it work efficiently. That's not to say we can't be a leader and try to, sometimes you have to get creative with the system to accomplish the goal that you're trying to achieve.
and I don't want to add, I know your workload's big, but I don't want to add something, but I really think it's important. I think we all kind of agree that we'd like to figure out a better way to do this, so.
I totally agree.
Thank you.
Steve?
I'm not going to ramble here. I am an island, as you guys know. I actually like the way things have been working for the last 4 years, and I think that the morning session is absolutely the most important time of the day. I think I wouldn't be able to start before 9 o'clock because I have to get up and get businesses going in the morning. And those businesses generally start up pretty early. We kind of tried to do that before and it didn't work very well. I very much appreciate the information and the opportunity of sitting around the table in the morning and going through the agenda. And then oftentimes there is things that we don't know. And that time in between noon and 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock gives me that opportunity to go back and research and look a little deeper into that. If I just got thrown from review at 4 in the afternoon and then right into session, you wouldn't have time to talk to anybody or research anything, and I think that would be a great disservice to the public. I ran for this office knowing that Council Thursday was government day, and that's the way I've lived up here for 4 years. Yes, sometimes there's work sessions that you sit through and you wonder why. But if you want to understand the big picture of what's going on in this government, you kind of have to sit through the good, the bad, and the evil, and take it all in. I don't know how to shorten it up. I understand why everybody would like to do an abbreviated council, and I think we could start at 5 o'clock. That wouldn't bother me at all, and maybe we get out a little earlier. I don't know why we start at 6, really. Mm-hmm. But there's no way that you could come in here at 4 in the afternoon and expect to cram in the work sessions that we've had in the last 4 years and then bang the gavel at 6 o'clock. So much of our time has been 9 till 12 or 1 or after, because some of these issues are really important and it just takes time to get through them. So if you had that 4 o'clock and then you had to bang the gavel at 6, you would have had people fly in here from Nebraska and they just got cut short before they were able to fully discuss the issue, I think. So I see where you guys are headed, and I just want to be very careful that we don't cut ourselves back to the point where we're not making good decisions for the public and for this community. As far as adding another day, I think that's also very difficult because my world is kind of built around as yours is. I know, how do you get 2 weeks in to a vacation now and then or a travel schedule? And my travel schedule is always built around the first and third Thursday of the month. So if you threw a Tuesday in the middle of that, I think that would really mess up some lives along the way as well. I don't know what the perfect solution is. We've sat here for 2 years and talked about electronic versions of council meetings, and do we even have to show up here, or can we just have a bunch of pictures of us up here and we don't have to really look at the public and handle business? I don't think it would work. That's my 2 cents. Sorry I rambled.
Thank you, Steve.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I would just say from an experience I'm going through with another jurisdiction where they had historically held Tuesday night work session, Wednesday regular meeting. They recently shifted that to try kind of a similar schedule to what you're doing. And about once a quarter, they're having to hold an extra work session night. So it's not an every month or every 2 weeks, but when something is large enough that they feel like they need that little bit extra time. It's turned out to be about once a quarter. A little bit smaller community than this, but also I think it has helped them pace themselves a little bit and recognize that there is not, some of the things we've dealt with recently, like the bridge, there was a sense of urgency about. I think some of the other things we have more time. So anyway, that's something to consider, because I respect his, in terms of my schedule or staff schedule, we do, for Deborah and I, it's the same thing. We build our schedule around the first and third Thursday of the month, because those are the weeks that we know that we need to be here.
And I think we may have just turned the page on some of these things that, because honestly, the last 4 years, it's just been like, oh my gosh, with between the bridge and the right-of-ways and 8th Street and ped bridges and, all that stuff. Is it going to slow down? Maybe. Are we now going to be talking about having the confluence jammed down our throat, and how many more meetings is that going to take? I don't know.
Thanks, Steve.
Really?
Are you done?
No, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Just didn't know you'd thank me for that.
No, I think those are great comments.
And I'd just like to say I totally appreciate not wanting to add an extra meeting every month. So I do the same thing. We plan our time out of town around those every other free week, basically. So, but what I have noticed on council is, and having served before where we didn't have that type of schedule, my impression was when I came on board this last time was that it was in that mode because of the bridge construction. And in working with some jurisdictions in Denver, going to a training there, my sense from them was that nobody in the state does these long all-day sessions like this. Typically it's I've spoken to Littleton, Thornton, I can't remember the other names of some of the towns, but they have an evening business meeting, and then you might have work sessions start at 4 or 5, depending on what the need is. So I'd love to see us work towards something like that, keep the meetings efficient, but also part of that is staying at the policy level. And I've seen us over the last 2 years, we've had some work sessions where we're really getting down into the weeds on things, where I feel like that issue particularly didn't need to be a work session. It could have been a presentation by staff after their thorough research and some policy direction by council, but presentation by staff on this is what we're seeing, this is what we recommend, council make a decision. We don't really need to get into a work session. Other things I've seen come to us that I might have preferred a work session on. So I think that's something as we as a council start working together and getting more of a feel for where we want to be at the policy level, we'll hopefully work that out and decide, get a little clearer on when we need a work session and when we don't. Because if we can minimize work sessions, if it's just something that staff needs to bring to us and ask direction on, and we don't need to get into a ton of detail and research, then let's just put it on the evening session and take action on it then.
I agree. Thank you, Shelley.
Charlie?
Looking to the May 2nd meeting, can we start a short meeting on May 2nd, or will that cause problems with what you guys already have planned?
I mean, I think in terms of work sessions, I was going to do, we were just comparing notes because we were like thinking about the things that we had to get done. I was going to do a short, probably half an hour or less, going over some of the mechanics of council that you guys just got dropped into, and now we need to go over sort of charter requirements, basic motions, just some really straightforward stuff. Outside of that, I can't remember what else we have scheduled for work sessions.
And we can move any of these things, but we were also, I think, thinking we wanted some direction on Two Rivers, maybe some direction on how you wanted to move forward with vacation rentals. It doesn't need to be a long conversation. And I feel like I'm missing one other thing.
So those are both really process questions. Yeah. So I think we can do it. I don't think we had anything huge scheduled, so we can give it a shot starting at 4. And there again, it goes to discipline. Can the mayor hold us to 15 minutes to get through the agenda? In terms of just any changes, everybody okay? And then getting into the work session, something like that.
I would make a motion that, nope.
Well, can I make a comment real quick?
What, do you think you're mayor or something?
I haven't opened it to a motion. No, you can make a motion. You go ahead. Then we can
No, go ahead. I'm fine. I'm just
You
kidding.
can comment after the motion.
That's true. Go ahead, make the motion. Well,
You might want to comment on this motion.
Well, a lot of this, some of this conversation started with, my frustration that only 2 of the 4 seats were challenged. I'm glad that the people who weren't challenged are here. But, I think that in a town of our size with our vitality, to have uncontested elections is tough. And I talked to 4 candidates, and 3 of the 4 ended up not running prior to the nominations, because they went to their boss and said, I have to give up every other Thursday, and that was a deal breaker. And these would have been potentially had contested elections. So, if we want to have teachers and tradespeople and more reflective of the community, I think it's important that we make it available to the broader community. I think the morning sessions right now, we don't have a hard end time, so nature abhors a vacuum, and we just kind of go because we don't have anything to stop us. I think going to 3 o'clock, starting our work sessions at 3 o'clock, again, eliminates too many people who could work. I would love to examine this, and I would like to have a check-in at 3 months to see how it's going with everybody, and then maybe again at 6 months to see if we need to move it up to 3 o'clock, if we need to reinstate the morning session. I think to start a work session, I know, Rick, you were talking about 5 for the meeting, but I think 5 is a little late, because I do think we do have enough work to do that can't be accomplished. I think, Steve, to your point, I would never suggest we have a work session where we would have to take action that day. I would prefer that any work session we do would have a 2-week lead time, so we take action 2 weeks from there, so we wouldn't have to process it that night. I think a lot of this is we're going to have a conversation about meeting norms and group norms among ourselves and how we do things. I think that's going to help. And lastly, I guess I would say there's no city council meeting. I mean, there will be city council meetings where we have a major development or some very contentious issue, but I just don't know why we can't do a city council meeting in 4 hours, or plan to if we need to extend it. So my idea would be to start at even 6:30, do 2.5 hours of work session, start at 6:30 and at 10:30. But those are my comments, and I would love to entertain a motion.
I move that we change the regular meeting schedule to start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon with work sessions until 6, and to start the regular meeting at 6:15. We can eat during the work session. That's not part of the motion. And go for 4 hours to 10:15, and to ask Mr. Hanlon to draft an ordinance to allow us to make those changes. So that's a drop dead timer. We have to vote unanimously to go beyond 10:15.
Point of clarification, you're saying if you change it from 6 to 6:15, that requires a code change, right?
It does. I mean,
Yes.
as long as we're shifting it a little bit later, I don't mind that it's starting a little bit later while we're testing this out than what the code calls for. If we were starting it, or if the regular meeting earlier, I would be uncomfortable, because if you happen to show up at 6, you're not gonna miss anything. See what I'm saying?
Is there a second? I have a comment. I don't know if there's a second or not, but.
I'll second it for,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's, you did
That
it
makes
great.
me feel bad. My first motion, I gotta say.
It's been moved by Charlie and seconded by, I think, Tony.
Yes, ma'am.
And Steve,
Sir.
go ahead.
You know, I of course can't support it. I don't know when you do the review of the agenda. I don't know when you get council comments. I don't know when you get future agendas discussed. That always takes at least a half hour in the morning. So if we start at 4 and you don't rob us of our council comments and future agendas and review of this agenda, we wouldn't start a work session till 4:30. And you're talking about taking care of all your work session items and sometimes an executive session in what is very little time. And oftentimes, you know, you brought people from Nebraska for that work session that now has just gotten crunched down to an hour. I think that's tough. I understand the reason for it, but I think I'm certainly not comfortable with it, so.
To clarify, Charlie, you said 4:30 or 4?
4.
Okay, thank you.
And I wouldn't, given what Steve has, I wouldn't have any hesitancy to change if you would agree, Tony, to 3:30, which allows that half hour. That I didn't think about that stuff. I was
If you
thinking
wanted to
1 hour work
amend that,
session.
I would support that.
Pardon?
I would support that.
So friendly amendment and acceptance. So 3:30 to 6 for the pre-meeting and work sessions. And by the way, I meant to add, and Tony, if you'll agree to this, that would be a 3-month drop rate. I thought you were
Yeah.
that would be good. I meant to add that. I thought of it when Steve was talking.
Appreciate that.
Tony, you agree to 3-month type drop?
I do.
Okay.
Shelley?
I just had a point, kind of a clarification on the motion, and why the 6:15 versus 6?
Just gonna take the table down? Frankly, what I'm
Just to
saying-
have some
yeah,
setup time in there.
That's actually what I was thinking about. I didn't say that, but yeah, that was my thought of it. Yeah.
Dinner?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I don't see why we couldn't, 6 just seems cleaner to me, but it's not a big deal. It's 15 minutes, so could we, in the work session at 5:45?
If we get the table done faster and
Yeah.
move, I don't have any trouble, you know.
I don't think there's any magic to this stuff. I
Right.
mean, if you guys want to try starting at 3:30, we can work with you guys on seeing what works and what doesn't. I mean, this is really a malleable thing. The whole work session schedule is really at your discretion. That's not driven by KID.
Right.
So,
And you know, and I think Jonathan's comment about, I don't think we act on something at night unless it's a really emergency, in which case we better hold a special session. And if we need to on occasion, Steve, I think we come in the morning if we need to. I'm going to keep all of my days marked out for the next 4 years because I anticipate that I may have to be here during the day earlier, so.
Any other council comments? Staff comments?
I would just say, be patient with us as we adjust to this because it is different. I think, staff will be happy with it, but, if we're having a conversation that you guys feel like we shouldn't be having, just tell us and we'll learn and we'll go on from there.
Can I ask a question of staff?
Sure.
So do you find, I mean, I know you don't speak for every single person, but is it helpful if you're not here from come in at 7:30, have that morning meeting, or 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and you can come a little late, or certain staff can come a little later if they're going to know they're going to have to be here till 10 or 11?
Yes, we're very tired by the end of the day.
Okay. Thank you.
And I can just speak from personal experience when I come back at 9 o'clock the next morning to grab my phone charger, or my speaker, or my phone, or my laptop. that every single staff that's in here right now with us until the wee hours are in here at 9 o'clock the next morning. They don't come in at noon. They don't take that time back. They just don't.
No, but what I was asking, if they come in a little later, the morning of the meeting.
Right.
Right.
Because they'll stay. Can I have another question? Do you see any challenges with starting at 3:30 and going through?
I don't
For
think so.
staff?
Do you guys? Staff?
No? Okay.
Your staff's like,
Deer in
don't
headlights.
say anything.
We don't have to do 14-hour days. We're good.
It's to the staff that's here, if this doesn't work, let us know. I mean, you are the people that make this engine run, and we want to help you. And I'm hoping by what we talked about in between, in the beginning, before this meeting, what we're talking about tonight, is going to help staff efficiency and get us, hopefully as council, to give you policy and you to tell us based on policy your recommendations. That's what I'm looking to get to.
All right, seeing no more comments, I guess.
I think you're going to have to do a roll call because
Okay.
Steve's not going to.
And does Catherine do the roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Willman,
Yes?
Voorhees,
Yes.
Coe,
Yes.
Golds,
Yes.
Davis,
Abstain.
Step,
Yes.
Hershey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, our next agenda item is item number 20, City Council Board Liaisons.
And for this, I believe we just maybe potentially want a direction on how we wanted to talk about this. In the past, the mayor has asked other council members what boards and commissions they're interested in. I believe the mayor makes the appointments, but I've also heard there's some desire to maybe change some of that up. I don't think you guys have to fully have that conversation tonight if you don't want to and you want to think about it, but
Can we set a work session tomorrow morning for this? Just to
7:30.
7:30 is good.
but kind of generally, we're just kind of looking for either how do you want to talk about this, or do you want to start talking about it right now, or what are you thinking?
Well, if people indulge me for a minute, this is another one of those things that I think was fed from it's hard to recruit your average citizen who represents the community up here to throw their hat in the ring. And so, sometimes I look around and go, why are we doing different than every other town? And every other town has boards and commissions, but they're not represented as in a liaison way by city council people. We have both staff and city council people going to these boards and commissions, where most communities have just a staff person go and represent the city and then bring information back and forth. I don't think we need to take action on this tonight. I think we should have a conversation, potentially a little more in depth. I wanted to start the conversation this evening because if we were going to go with the consistent format of appointing board liaisons, we would need to do that in the next couple of weeks or even month. I don't know, there's a huge hurry. I'll just speak personally, it's really difficult. 1 to 2 mornings a week, I don't get to help get my kids to school. A couple nights a week, I don't get to see my kids when they come home from school because we do have 13, I believe, boards and commissions. I think to ask a potential candidate, I think we made a good attempt. We're going to check in 3 months with saying you don't have to give up every other Thursday, to now say, hey, if you have a family, you don't have to give up one morning and one evening a week. And that doesn't include things like Colorado Municipal League or representation on the Northwest Colorado Governors, Colorado stuff.
Northwest Council of Governments.
That's it. And there's another statewide one, and then there's things that you're gone for once a quarter for the entire day. So I think we still need to keep that representation, things like RAFTA. I mean, obviously things where we are representing the city. But I would like to see a conversation happen about if there's a way that we can have our staff be the liaison. And if you're currently on a board or commission, I personally would have a hard time not attending these financial advisory board meetings. I'm very involved with the people there. and the process. And so I think that that's why I wanted to bring it up now before we got our new counselors seated on boards and commissions. If we change that, I think that'd just be more difficult to change. Paula?
So my one concern is, you know, I know the staff would be there and they'd be representing, but you know, we as council people, I think also should be representing the council in the sense of letting that board know kind of what council is thinking. I wouldn't want a liaison to run that board, but it would be great to have that line of communication, I would think, directly with the board. I don't have experience, so I just, I'm a information junkie. It would be great if maybe just from my discussions with people who have been on council, that we don't lose that information, you know, and I don't know what that would mean for the staff. So does the staff sorry, there it goes. Does the staff step forward and then have to have these conversations with the council? And does that take up our board meetings? I mean, our council meetings? I mean, it seems like running that way is we're looking to add time for staff again to come back and communicate with us.
I mean, I think it could be done in different ways. I mean, there's not a right or wrong answer to this. Cities do it all differently.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really what you guys want to do. Staff does attend these meetings. We do monthly reports that I'm pretty sure are read, not always. So we are already kind of reporting back to you guys, and I guess you wouldn't know where they are yet, and we'll fill you in on all of that. But so it's really just a preference of what you guys want to do.
Shelley?
My only comment on that would be, and I think the council liaison to the boards is a very important position in that it can empower the boards when it's done well, and the council is there to listen and possibly give a little bit of direction to the board if they have a question on what council might be open to or things like that. But that role as liaison and an ear between council and the board is very important, because I want our boards to feel very empowered. Their duty is to give us recommendations on council. We can't have expertise in everything up here, even though we'd like to think it sometimes, but we need input from those boards. And, you know, I look at some of the boards that I'm serving on right now, and people from the community have stepped up to volunteer. They have expertise on an issue. They're passionate about it. And I think it's important that council has a representation there to at least listen to that and bring that back. That said, I know we've discussed a little bit, Jonathan, it would be nice to have more regular communication from the boards, maybe, because as we've seen on council, we don't always get to those summaries where council board liaisons communicate back. So if we could, you know, maybe once a quarter or twice a year, we have the chairman of the board or some representation from the board just come to council and give us the goals and give us any pertinent communications. I guess we want to discuss, are we still going to try to meet with the boards once a year? So that's kind of what we've been trying to do, right? I believe. Do we want to keep doing that? So maybe that's part of that discussion.
Thank you, Shelley. Steve?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to discuss about this than should happen tonight. But I completely reflect everything that Shelley just said. I think that these boards really want council to be there. I catch hell when I don't go to some of these board meetings. And I think it's important for those people to think that somebody there is carrying that message back to council. That's why we have that agenda item that honestly doesn't get near as much attention as it sometimes should, but sometimes it does. I attend a lot of board meetings where there's no staff, and I'm not saying there should be. Staff shows up at some things, but Others, there's no staff there at all. And I think it's kind of our responsibility to the public to take that place. And I do think that we do need to have at least an annual meeting, work session with each of these boards. Otherwise, they feel like they're just, why am I even here? Why did I just spend 12 months coming to this board meeting and we don't even get to talk to council about what our goals are?
Right.
So I think it's important to do. You do get attached to these, so
Absolutely.
I like the way it's been done in the past. I think that, everybody, I think ought to put in their request. And I'm okay with some change. Some boards I'm extremely attached to, and I think we could all talk about it.
Contractor Review Board?
I love that board. We've never met, but
I want that one.
I'd give you that one, Tony.
Thank you.
Rick?
Well, there have been some of you in the council who've suggested a strategic planning process, and that might be an ideal time to be hearing what these boards and commissions are thinking about in terms of practices and things that they'd like to see. So we might want to fold that into some of our thinking about board liaison and what's sort of necessary coming out of that in order to affect some of the strategies that might emerge. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Charlie?
Yeah, Jonathan, I know we talked about this, and I think it's a good idea that we don't go into these board meetings as council members and dominate the conversation. And what do you think? Or what do you think council's going to do? And then I've been to financial advisory board meetings where that can happen. But I also think, listening to what I hear tonight, just thinking on a couple of commissions I have been serving on, that having council there is helpful. Because sometimes I just think, well, what about this? And so I think that's important. And so I'm trying not to repeat a lot of stuff. The other thing I think is really important that we do as council, because there's always a frustration on a board when I was serving on those, is what is your direction? What do you really want us to do? And that's where I think the annual meetings are good. We say down during the next 12 months, this is just kind of things we as council would like to see your board or your commission take on and come to us with the recommendations. That's it.
Thank you, Charlie.
I didn't raise my hand. It didn't work.
No, it worked.
Oh, can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I agree with Steve that this is a much larger conversation, but to sort of disagree a little bit, I was concerned hearing it, and I'm not going to pick on Mike, but he's not here, he left, right? That he goes to a transportation board, and he's the mayor, and he says, well, this is what council wants, and people are like, well, this is contrary to what Steve just said, then why are we here, and what do we care? I think some of that direction is good general policy, but if a city council person is sitting in a meeting with these board members, I think it's not that he's running the meeting as much as, well, okay, well, I mean, what's the point if we disagree with what council wants? Why are we bothering? And just looking up Valley at Aspen and Basalt and Carbondale, those are communities that don't do that the same way. They certainly send representatives to Northwest Cog and RAFTA, but I do agree with Steve that this is a bigger conversation. I wouldn't want these boards to say, well, fine, now council's not coming, why am I bothering? Nobody cares what we say. We meet for 8 months, there might be a staff member here, there might not be, and nobody cares. But I think all those issues could be addressed. I agree with Steve that, you've made this commitment, you decided to run for office. Maybe you didn't think you were going to win, but I did. So, you have that obligation to make the time for these meetings. If that's what the majority of council wants, I would support that. Thank you.
Any more comments? Is there a motion or direction?
I would make a motion to table this conversation till another meeting.
Before you do that motion, because that stops conversation, I tend to agree we at least submit our who we're interested in serving on. And the comment I want to make is, if you don't have the time to do it, don't volunteer for stuff. You don't have to just do it because you're on the council, in my view. If you're not going to spend the time or don't feel you're stressed, that solves some of the issues Jonathan's talking about. But I think we should submit to Jonathan if that's the process and the boards would like to be on, because if we're going to until we decide to do otherwise, I think we have a duty to continue to follow the code, which means we're supposed to be on these boards.
Well, and I do think the next meeting that we would have, by that time, everybody should have submitted their request if they have an interest in a board, and we ought to put all of that on the table and talk about why you think you should be a member of that board. And we haven't honestly had an opportunity to do that in the 4 years I've sat up here.
And, I know that it was, sorry to interrupt, but I know that was really difficult for Mayor Gamba a couple of years ago, because we're all submitting stuff, and he literally had a spreadsheet, and,
It's tough.
It is really, really tough. So and one, I think your Mr. Roberts Rules of Order, so I'll defer to you, but I don't know, the motion doesn't necessarily stop debate. And
Yes,
this is,
if you move to table, then you have to vote. If there's a second, then you have to vote on what's going to be tabled. Now, that's the only discussion.
okay.
Yeah, that's why I want to get
Gotcha.
in before you.
Thank you for that clarification.
So actually, this is a motion to continue to a date certain. It's not tabled.
No, I think
Yeah.
it'd be good if
Whatever.
I think we owe these boards and commissions. I think we owe these boards and commissions a little more certainty than a date uncertain. And I know we just got done saying, hey, let's start this new 3:30 and really call back. But I think if everybody submitted to me their requests for what boards or commissions they would like to serve on, then we can have that conversation at the next meeting. I think we're having it in an open way of, this is why I'm passionate about this. And somebody's like, oh, well, I just thought that would be nice. I think that would be really great. I think it's probably a half-hour conversation. And maybe it is, maybe we come out of that conversation with, yeah, we're going to change this up a little bit, but we like kind of the general structure. And if that's the case, then we come out of that meeting in 2 weeks. I think it took Mike at least 2 or 3 meetings last time we did this to appoint everybody. And I think boards and commissions, if they go without a representation for one meeting, they're probably going to forgive us all.
I agree. But can we get a list? I know I just looked on the website about the boards and commissions, but I know there's other appointments. You guys have mentioned other things, and I've heard them when I've been in meetings before. So,
We can send that out.
huh?
We can send that out.
And make sure you
It's
do,
complete on the website where it says boards and commissions.
but that doesn't have Northwest Cogs, it doesn't
All right,
have.
but those are different, sort of.
But there are other things
still
like
think
raft and stuff
representation.
like that.
Catherine has a list.
Great.
And we'll send that out to us all.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Rudai Water Board's not on that list.
Raft
The,
is not on the list,
Rafta.
which is a big E.
RAFTA board's not there. The chamber board is not there.
Tourism promotions. But that's separate, right?
Separate.
Okay, thanks.
So did I hear a motion to table this, or do
Could
we
we
want
Well,
to?
just for
Continue
tonight, I
it,
would
yeah.
like to let's gather the information, sit down, and I agree, the next meeting, I would certainly get here extra early and stay extra late to see if we can pound through that, but
Can we
let you guys
continue?
know that.
Steve, I'll be here at 3:15.
Okay.
So it's motion to continue to the next regular meeting.
Yeah.
Do you need a date specific with
Do-
that? No.
Is this a meeting topic, or is this an agenda, or a work session? Could we just do a work session, we're sitting at that table and we all just kind of put our things on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that Carl said he's got to throw this stuff for the work session, but let's at least start the discussion if we can on May 2nd during those work sessions. And if that, unless you guys have something you think we need to do other than that, but,
No, and I mean, I think we have good direction on that,
yeah,
honestly.
okay, that's good.
I don't
Let
think that we need a motion.
let you guys figure it out.
Bring it back to you on May 2nd at a work session.
And I don't think, we don't need a formal, if we all agree, we don't need to formally just say we're going to talk about it again then, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it wasn't an action item
Right.
particularly tonight, so.
All right, any other comments? All right, report from city manager.
Okay. Hanging Lake ribbon cutting is May 1st. I know I think I've heard from pretty much all of you whether you were going or not. So, thank you. I know we're going to be hiking. That will be fun. The CML meeting is June 18th through 21st. I would really recommend that all the new members of council attend. If you would like to, let Sarah and I know, and we'll get you registered and signed up for a hotel, and the sooner the better.
You said June 18th to what?
The 21st.
So does
Sorry.
that mean there is no regular
I was
schedule?
gonna say, depending on how many of you want to go, that probably implicates whether we cancel that meeting or not.
Well, Mr. Mayor, before, I didn't know I was going to win. I did plan a vacation that week and I have, so. that's an issue.
Deborah,
I guess I
not-
could change it,
Sorry,
but,
totally interrupt.
sorry, but I'm not here.
I just would recommend or encourage anybody that can go. I went to it last year. I thought it was really valuable.
I missed what you said, I apologize.
Oh, just the CML meeting is June 18th through 21st. If you would
June
like,
18th to 21st.
Yeah, if you would
The annual
like
conference.
to attend, let Sarah and email Sarah and I, and we'll get you registered in hotel room. But the sooner the better, because the hotel rooms book up pretty.
And it's in Hawaii.
It's in Breckenridge.
That was my next question.
So it's,
Can I
it's a,
ask a question, though? Do we have a council meeting that week?
Well, that's what I was
Or
asking.
would we?
Unless enough of you decide you want to attend CML, and then we can either move it, or we just fix the code to make that easier.
Right.
This is one of those great examples of
Okay.
why inevitably CML is over a council meeting.
And we did that
We're
last
the
year.
only town in the state
And we
that's on
canceled
Thursday.
it, yeah.
And I would recommend almost that we decide to cancel it, because
Monday?
otherwise, some of your staff that you depend on to be at these meetings will be at the CML
And I
conference.
might suggest, maybe we can look at the schedule and think about scheduling it for the week after, just only because I think July 4th comes up
Yeah, you're right.
as our next meeting, and it falls on the Thursday of it would be our first meeting, so that would be 2 canceled in a row.
Shelley, did Carl say, so you guys can move it under the code, you can just set it for a different day, right?
Yeah, we can move via resolution, so we could move that to the week.
Like the 27th?
Yeah, so we can take, between now and May 2nd, we'll take a look at those couple of dates that are coming up and maybe make a suggestion on alternate dates.
Good point. Good catch.
We move it. That's just my feeling. So.
I will be there. I just checked my calendar, so. Yeah.
And I'll be at the conference.
You said to tell Catherine?
The CMO.
Email myself and Sarah.
That's already 4 people, so you don't have a quorum. And me.
Are we still doing the South Canyon ribbon cutting?
Yes.
We're going to the conference.
Okay, we are doing the South Canyon ribbon cutting on May 7th.
Good.
Yeah.
What time?
5:30 would be the speeches by the new mayor and Mike Pritchard, the executive director of our FMBA, and probably one of the county commissioners. We are doing, sorry.
What are we cutting the ribbon for?
Yeah, so May 7th at South Canyon, I believe council has a meeting at 3:30 earlier then, and then would go out to that. There's a cleanup out at the canyon from 4 to 8 or dusk. We'll be providing some pizza and drinks. RFMBA is providing beer. We will be doing a ribbon cutting with a few speeches at 5:30, and council is invited to be there with some of the county commissioners and RFMBA leadership.
You'll send us an invitation.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we wanted to give you guys a pretty quick update on spring cleanup. It's been brought to my attention, I did not know this before, that our staff gets a lot of abuse during spring cleanup. So Jake, if you...
Well, thank you for,
Uh-oh.
I mean, I think it's going well, but then also kind of, since it was news to me, we kind of just wanted to share it with you guys, in case you're getting blowback on it as well.
the appearance is great. I've had several comments about how well it is going and how the citizens really appreciate how quickly things get picked up after they get put out and so forth.
So I'll start, I'll let Jay kind of take over here in a
Yeah.
moment, but spring cleanup is going well. I believe we finished zone 1 and I'll round up in 2 days. Day and a half. It did help having people put things out on a Saturday, Sunday, gave them time to realize that, here's 2 days, go ahead and put those out, good organized piles, and then we move through as quickly as humanly possible. And eliminating, I will say, the areas where we're not supposed to be going to in the first place has helped. I think we have given out 120-ish vouchers for the landfill. So people are coming in, they know that they're in the private areas, they still want to have that opportunity to take a free load to the landfill. And we're being generous on what we call a load out there. So it's working well at this point. But an incident that occurred Tuesday, thank you, I don't even know what day it is anymore, brought kind of light to City Hall of what occurs on a daily basis during spring cleanup. We had one gentleman come in basically call everybody he could call, come in, was quite irate. To the ladies at the front desk, Colt, the undersheriff, happened to be standing behind him when he asked where Jake was. And the ladies told him to go to the MOC because that's where Jake's office is, and Colt was concerned that this human being was actually going to physically harm our lovely superintendent here. But this is not a new thing, actually. We get quite a bit of abuse. I have not taken a ton. I've taken a lot of phone calls and emails on why are you not picking up in my neighborhood anymore? Explain to them either over the phone or with a very lengthy email of explaining why these situations are occurring, why they occurred in the past and why they are not now. More than happy to send you a voucher either in the mail. But I think what it brought up was how much abuse does our streets and SWAT and parks staff take during spring cleanup? And it's quite a bit. Jake actually wrote a 3-page letter if you would like more detail on some of the things that occur. But he can basically tell you in his own words kind of how a daily routine goes with spring cleanup so that you know.
So roughly 3 years ago, we actually started enforcing our rules and regulations on spring cleanup. And there was some pushback to that. These rules and regulations haven't changed much in the time I've been out in the city, which is roughly 6 years. But we've never really been aggressive about it. The first year we had code enforcement come out and help us extensively, and it went fairly well. The second year, people weren't as friendly to us. The crews experienced everything from being cussed at, yelled at, stuff thrown at them. You name it, it pretty much happens to the crew. The phone calls I get, for the most part, it's just someone who's upset with a certain situation. If we hear them out, 90% of the time, the conversation ends on a good note. There are those 10% of the times where no matter what I say, it does just get worse and worse and worse. I didn't know it was that bad at City Hall on Tuesday. Lieutenant Kimnaw showed up in my office to see if I was okay, and I had literally no idea what he was talking about. But that's not the first time that, and again, that gentleman didn't threaten me personally, but that isn't the first time that I've been threatened. I've had people call me and even threaten to have my dad come deal with me. My family's been here for a long time, so a lot of people know them. If you know me and my dad, that's a pretty funny thing. But it kind of runs the gambit of the type of abuse that we do take. This is also a program where it's really hard on the crews, so they're being removed from their normal duties, which are to clean the drainages and fix the streets, to go remove trash from the streets. It's a rather unsafe project for them to do. We even have Colorado State Patrol come in every year and give us a little hazmat training, just in case we encounter drug paraphernalia or something like that, someone we don't know. So that, on top of being yelled at, pretty much anything you can imagine, is not the best of days for myself or my crews. So when they asked me to write a letter, I was happy to do it. We get abused during snow season, we get abused because we're on the roads, but spring cleanup is definitely pretty severe.
You say they get yelled at, but what are they angry about? And I know it varies, but.
So yeah, it varies. Usually it's, we can't pick this up. It's in your pile that says the TV, you're not supposed to put a TV out here. That will start, that'll kick it off. Most recently, a good example was a refrigerator. A gentleman put a refrigerator out. Our SWAT foreman informed him that we can't pick up refrigerators unless there's a free on, free sticker on it. He told our SWAT foreman that he was just going to drill a hole in it, and then John gave him my card. I talked to the gentleman, I explained that would be a bad idea to do. I gave him the number of HVAC and plumbing companies that can come out and drain it and put a free on, free sticker on it, and he just got more and more combative as we went along. Finally, he just said, well, I'm leaving it out there, and that's when we had Lynn go contact him immediately, and I believe the fridge is still there. So she's contacted him a couple times, I believe. Yes, sir.
Hi, Jake. Just to play devil's advocate a little bit, I know it's a popular program, and I agree with Steve, but it sounds like, I know someplace where we could spend $100,000 a year on streets. If we wanted to, if this is something the community, if this is something that your staff doesn't want to do, is that what you're saying, that it creates too many issues? Because you wrote a 3-page letter, which I'd like to read.
It does create a lot of issues.
Big problem, that maybe you don't want to do this anymore. Is that what you're saying?
My personal opinion is I do not want to do this anymore. I think we could spend our resources in a wiser way. Right now, we finished Zone 1 in a day and a half, which was a record for us. But that gave us the rest of the week to go back and repair asphalt. A lot of people brought up at this council meeting the bike path at 6 and 24 and how they're appreciative that we're repairing that. We're doing that right now because we were able to finish spring cleanup that quickly and in that zone. But this puts us a month to 2 months behind schedule. I have a list of projects I want to do this year that is very ambitious, and I hope to get it all done, but the longer spring cleanup goes on, the shorter that list gets.
So in addition to the abuse and the money, you're saying that this spring cleanup also delays the repair of critical infrastructure and other projects that you're working on?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Shelley?
Thanks, Jake, for that explanation. And I would love to read the letter too, so maybe you can just forward it on to council.
Maybe take out the swear words.
I don't think I put many in there.
I toned it down a little bit and took names off of it, so.
Yeah, it can be unredacted, I guess. But, and Councilor Hershey may not know, but we did talk about this about a month ago?
About a month ago.
Yeah, that we are looking at changing things up next year and possibly doing something centered, staff had some ideas to do something centered around Earth Day.
I just was asking questions because it sounds like he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, so.
Council did approve us to utilize 3 trucks that we were using Gould's trucks because we already had a trucking contract with them. So that has helped. We are not professional truck drivers, so they actually speed up the process a little bit. But that has freed up a few of our streets crews to start doing things. But it would be nice to have all of them, in our opinion.
Right.
It would be nice to have all of them, including our SWAT or special work team, and anybody else that gets dragged into it, doing actual infrastructure projects at the beginning of the year when we can.
Yeah.
But we also know that it is a very popular program. We're aware
Right,
of that.
but I also have no problem with not having much tolerance for this type of abuse, so I don't know what the best
Jake tries
repercussion
to
is
bring
that.
morale
Do you
up.
cancel the whole program because of a few bad apples, or do you just take care of those in a?
Well, if I may, it sounds, we're still on reports. This is just a report, and it's starting to get up to a back and forth, and we're problem solving and work
Good
session.
point.
Yeah, it's not.
I think we're probably not going to change anything midway through spring cleanup. We're not going to have to probably talk about this for another 6 months at the latest. But if we're going to make a change, we should inform residents as soon as we know. But unless we're going to workshop this now, I would suggest that we put that on for a future agenda item or work session to discuss ways that it is a very popular program, but how are ways that we can maintain a service level to the city, but yet, just address this topic, because I don't think right now we should be. Thank you.
It was just the City Hall incident brought up City Hall staff understanding a little bit better what the street crews go through on a basically a daily basis with some of the residents. So we wanted to let you guys know that this is not everyone, but it makes it unpleasant.
Yeah, and we also requested that, some of the threatening phone messages get forwarded on straight to the police department. So as more of that is occurring, you guys might hear more pushback. So it's also letting you know that, we always like to let you know when you're going to get angry phone calls if we can, but I don't feel like I can ignore physical threats to my staff. So, and Terry is good enough to back us up.
Charlotte, do you have a comment on putting this to a future?
Oh, yeah, I just want to make a comment about the safety issues. And Chief, I know your staff is stretched, but boy, anything we can do to get out and support these guys. If they got a complaint, I don't know, just have the code enforcement person there with that official truck or something. I think these guys need to be safe. I don't want them to feel they're doing a service to the community, and that just is intolerable. So.
And we do have code enforcement on pretty much every call we have and contact we have. As much as humanly possible code enforcement.
I'm just wondering, and I know it's asking a lot to have the code enforcement basically driving around with you.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we have going on for about a month.
I don't want you guys to take this stuff at all.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
And sorry.
Can I get a copy of that letter, though, Mr. Mayor, because I haven't seen it?
Yeah, that would be great if we could get that copy.
I forwarded that to Deborah.
Thanks, Matt.
Great, I'll send it out.
And Jake.
Okay, I think I am done with mine.
Okay. City Attorney.
I don't have anything for the open session tonight.
Okay. I do not have any correspondence sending out. Anybody else, or am I the only one that does that? Okay, I guess,
Executive session?
We need to be read in.
I move we adjourn into executive session with all the normal wording that I'm supposed to say.
Oh, there you go. That's a little more complicated than that.
Can I just show this to the camera?
just take a phone shot.
I move to go into executive session for the purposes of conducting a conference with the city manager, or is it just city attorney today?
That's city manager.
City manager and city attorney discuss city's purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of real property, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations, and instructing negotiators, and to conduct a conference with the city attorney to receive legal advice in accordance with CRS 24-6-402, sub 4, sub A, sub B, and sub E related to Garfield County Industrial Development? Is that it?
That's it.
All right, so moved.
Second.
Then motion by Charlie, second by Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
It is important to remember that we're on air until that goes off and our cameraman leaves, because sometimes I forget.
Hi, Mom.